coaches like those
Yeah.
or that type of advice. That's removed from it. So it's simply about generating for the sake of generating and then accumulating. It's about that. Whereas for Khadija, even prior to her, accepting Islam, becoming Muslim, this was already what her life was about.
Yeah.
Her life was about. So it's not. From that point, there are certain things, as you say, the idea of communicating, the idea of being focused, having tenacity, all of those things. But there's also the ideas, when we spoke about this last week, her being exposed to circles in which she learned
Yes, there's
some of these
the
things.
mentorship. It's interesting because the video that I mentioned, the one that where the penny dropped for me, he mentioned, which I didn't mention now, was that people think that money is the root of all evil, whereas the rich think that poverty is the root of all evil. Now, what he's saying is that no one has ever pulled up to rob a bank in a Rolls Royce, but to that point, Ali alayhi salam, Ali ibn Talib, he said that if poverty was a man, I'd slay him. Those were his words. And Khadija was pursuing money. She's a good woman pursuing money, but again, it boils down to the intention. What is your niyyah? What is your intention for pursuing the money? But what's interesting to me is that, and he has a point from the point of view that the poorer communities are rife with crime and drugs and things like that. So if you're pursuing wealth to prevent those things, then that is something that has to be considered. And the other issue is that we mentioned it last week with Robert Kiyosaki's Cash for Board game, when people want to buy doodads, people want to have brands, they want to buy shoes. And he's in the board game, you kind of learn through experience that you should rather invest your money. If you do have some savings or some cash, rather invest it and grow and generate the income. So Danlok was also saying in another video that poor people, or people who struggle, I think it's better to say it that way, people who struggle or going in the wrong direction, they will buy the doodads, they'll buy the luxury items. So as soon as they come into a bit of money, they go and spend it. So it's the materialism that I think, that those traps of materialism, that's problematic. He says that what you should rather do is invest the money, you have your income, but then you use the income to buy your high quality items. Now, of course, if you're taking Khadija alayhi salam into consideration, what you want to then do is you're going to generate your income, and then your income is going to fund your charity, your foundations, your NGOs. Because the Prophet Muhammad SAW says you don't have real wealth except that which you consume, that which you wear, and that which you give in charity. Because, and what do they all have in common? Energy conversion. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just again the sort of sweeping statements around that. It's important that we sort of address the structure that is problematic, because again, if one speaks from a position of privilege, and this is one of the lessons that we take from Khadija al-Kubra, that for her, even though she was a wealthy woman, she didn't speak from as if she was in power. She didn't assert that. Whereas people like again the person that you were referring to this video, so it's incredibly patronizing, because if you already have access to those spaces by virtue of wearing whatever it is that you wear, you don't understand what perhaps a brand will mean for a person to purchase it. And whereas the person that is supposed to be or struggling, or that doesn't is not as affluent financially, is placed in a box, and these are the sorts of things that we ascribe to you. But before, because we're quickly running out of time, I just want you to quickly speak to us briefly, Sister Lila, because it sounds almost like a paradox if you think about the net of freedom. A net is supposed to constrain.
It can
A net
either,
is supposed
if
to
you're not
limit.
aware of it, it can be a trap. But if you're
So
aware of
maybe
it,
you can speak to us about it.
if you're aware of it, then it becomes leverage. It becomes your bridge. It becomes your ladder. It becomes the basket to which you catch your prey with. So the net of freedom is basically a matrix of you being aware of yourself, being aware of others, so that you can connect, so that you can grow.
So relate it to us in these last few minutes to
Yeah.
Khadija
So
to Kubra.
in terms of the communication and how that impacts the income generating skills, and how we leverage that with other opportunities as well. So like what you're saying, it has to do with opportunities. Khadija alayhi salam, she was coming from a point of privilege, but she used that to benefit others.
Yes.
You understand? Some of us are coming from a point of privilege as well, but we're here to benefit. We are here as agents of
It's
Allah subhanahu wa
selfish.
ta'ala. We are here to benefit mankind. And so we have to leverage. And I do actually have empathy for why wealthy people want to buy their quality things, or use their assets for the quality items, because honestly, if you think about what a person actually goes through to get to that level, by the time they've reached it, they feel like they are worthy. Or and also there's that indoctrination from society that you have to show that you have wealth, you understand. So she was very unique and special in that sense, that she had that inspiration to rather funnel it more towards charity, and to focus more. And like, apparently one of her daughters did have a beautiful necklace, so it's not to say we don't know what nice things they had, but she had a great deal of social concern as well.
Yeah, I think the concerns that we are raising is not around generating income or learning the skills or acquiring the skills or transitioning, again to use that phrase, from surviving to thriving if one has the opportunity. That in itself is not problematized. It's the idea of what motivates you. And then, of course, looking to Khadija alayhi salam and seeing then, okay, so what motivated her?
Yeah.
Because there is often the sort of association made between if you are in a space where you're just surviving, or you're struggling financially, that would make you more humble and
Yeah.
closer to God. And that's exactly why we are looking at the example of Khadija.
We tend to discuss that with Fatima,
Yes,
alayhi
but
yes.
that's why I say, that's why we make that, so that is why we're looking at Khadija alayhi
Yeah,
salam.
yeah.
You're saying, no, this
To
was
get
a
the
wealthy
balance,
woman.
to get that
This was a
balance,
wealthy
yes,
woman, and
yes.
yet this is what she chose to
Yes.
do. So let's draw an example from that.
Yeah.
Let's not associate wealth with somebody not being humble, with somebody not
Yeah,
being God
yes.
conscious. And
down to earth.
Exactly.
Yeah, she had a reputation for being down to earth and accessible.
So it's really about understanding or realizing that belief is still an essential part of that. And still question your intentions, still question your
Yeah.
would that
See,
be
for
fair?
me, it's about to me, income generation, growing as a business person, as an entrepreneur, it's part of my value system. That's very important to me. But with Khadija alayhi salam, that her as an archetype or as a role model helps me to put it into balance and perspective.
Yeah.
So that there's not too much focus on one thing, because we are inclined towards materialism. If as soon as I make money, or as soon as I do well, there is that knee-jerk reaction of wanting to spend, of wanting to,
Or assert power in some way or the
yeah,
other.
or
Because money is
yes, or to
conflated with
to
that.
feel like you've got leverage, and to rather just, she inspires that humility and that social consciousness that needs to be teamed up. Because what I'm saying to South Africans, to whoever has the opportunity, please do look and consider if you can get yourself from the one quadrant to the other quadrant, so that we can all grow and we can all
Yes.
generate more income. That's definitely something that needs to be encouraged. However, Khadija alayhi salam inspires us to do that with humility, with compassion, with empathy. Hence, this is where it's the net of freedom, as
Yes.
paradox as it might sound.
Yes,
Because
yes,
it's
yes.
about connection. It's networking with connection, with the interpersonal being developed, so that we connect more socially
Yes,
through
yes.
communication, but then also just through the social consciousness of being charitable and assisting the community, inshallah.
Exactly. And so just maybe to add to that and to ask you this question there. So this idea of the net of freedom and why it's seemingly paradoxical, because if all of these skills and being a business person or generating income, it can become something which one then one in a sense submits to. In that sense,
It can, yeah.
in that sense, it becomes a constraint. It limits you because that's all you think about.
Yeah.
Whereas if you use it in different ways, and how it can give you access to a different type of freedom,
Yes.
spiritually and in all ways,
Socially,
yes.
the community, because look, how else are we going to rely on the government? Are we going to rely on the authorities? Who else is going to help us? Who else is going to assist us? So the business side of things and the entrepreneurial side of things, it's a very big part of that constructive puzzle. And that's why, but again, the intention has to be there, and it has to be linked to a higher purpose in order for it to work, inshallah.
Hence it's so important that we look to these women to continue our journey towards
Inshallah.
Allah. Shukran so much, Sister Lilla, for joining us in studio today.
Afwan.
And so next week we'll continue unpacking through these women. You have a wonderful day,
You too.
inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. That concludes today's social justice segment with Sister Lilla Helsingen, and it also brings us to the end of today's edition of Community Pulse. Stay tuned because up next is the news, followed by